Hi guys, welcome to your channel Digital Empaths, where we discuss on the interesting trends and the different facets of the digital ecosystem. I'm your host Sushant Ijmani, and in our today's Weekend Knowledge series, we're going to discuss on another interesting topic, that is cybersecurity. So over the weekend, I was having a conversation with a very good friend of mine who works with a large cyber insurance company in Silicon Valley. And during a conversation, he mentioned about the growing cases of cybercrime across the world and how it is becoming a major threat to the enterprise information ecosystem. We also talked about the different industries which are becoming a major victim to the cybercrime. The top 4 industries across the world are your financial institutions, your healthcare providers, your app-powered industries, your cryptocurrencies, and the 5th, which is a new entrant in this cybercrime incidences, is your supply chain ecosystem. So in the last 3 years, billions of dollars have been invested in the digitization and digital transformation of the linear and the circular supply chain ecosystem. And this has posed a major risk to the entire supply chain ecosystem because it has made it very vulnerable for attack by the individual hackers as well as the state-sponsored companies who are trying to steal the valuable intellectual property hidden in the value chain. It is also targeting the production points as well as the logistic points so that the entire company value chain can be put under distress. In the year 2019, 2 major incidents happened which really shocked the supply chain ecosystem. The first incident that happened in Norway in the month of March, when one of the large aluminium producer, Norsk Hydro, reported a major ransomware attack by a tool called Goga. And what that ransomware did that, it really impacted the production in the North America and the European regions and had to cut down their production for few weeks. Apart from that, it really impacted the corporate operations in the Norway region. Another incident happened in the month of June when one of the large aerospace supplier in Belgium, Esco Industries, they also reported a major ransomware attack and they had to shut down their operations for more than a month in the North America and the European region. Apart from that, they had to furlough more than 1,000 employees temporarily. The interesting part here is that the amount of losses that the company had to suffer because of these cybercrime incidences is not just directly proportionate to the ransom that they had to pay to the hacker, but the magnitude of the loss is significantly higher. It also impacts their falling stock prices, it impacts the brand equity, it impacts their reputation, it also impacts their productions, it impacts their credit worthiness. So that if we combine these losses together, the magnitude of this loss is significantly high. In a recent study by Cybersecurity Ventures, they mentioned that in the year 2015, the damages that happened to the world because of the growing cybercrime incidences were in the range of $3 trillion. And it is expected to grow beyond $6 trillion in 2021. And that's a ridiculously high number. Now, the big question that comes is that why the companies are not taking these things seriously? And what is the importance of cyber insurance in today's landscape? The first reason is that companies still don't understand that they are really being hit by these cyber attacks. I still remember an interview by John Chambers, which is an ex-CEO of Cisco. He mentioned that there are 2 types of enterprises in today's world. The ones who knows that they have been hit by a cyber attack. and the ones which are those who still don't know yet that they've been hit. So almost every company in the world has been hit by some kind of a cyber attack, whether it's a phishing attack, a malware attack, could be a third man in the middle, could be some kind of a DNS tunneling attack. So it's very, very important that the companies recognize that no one is immune to these attacks, and they have to take it seriously, because the growing number of cases across the world are not just in few hundreds, they are in thousands. In US itself, the number of reported cases were over 400,000 last year. UK reported over 90,000 cases of cybercrime last year itself. And these numbers are not smaller. So it's very, very important that the companies take into account that they really need to invest in the cyber insurances. So I asked my friend that when they insure any enterprise, what their underwriting team looks at. Okay, so he mentioned that they look at the size of the organization, the industry in which they play in, the gross revenue, the type of data that they collect, they store, they process, what is the ratio of the PII data versus the non-PII data. It also looks at the past breaches which have happened into their network, as well as their privacy policies, their network policies. They also look into picture what kind of a lawsuits that the company had to go through in the past because of these data and network breaches. We also mentioned about the kind of a regulatory penalties that the company had to pay in the last few years. So all these things the underwriting teams takes into consideration when they decide that what kind of a premium that this enterprise needs to pay. And the premium can range anywhere between $1,000 to $7,000 for a mid-sized company, and it can go over $200,000 to $500,000 per annum for some of the large, highly vulnerable, highly sensitive organizations. Now the question comes is that what the organizations can do to better manage their information ecosystem so that when the attacks happen, they are better prepared for that. The number one thing that the organization needs to do is they need to invest in education and training of their employees, not just in the IT and the networking sector, but they also need to train their frontline teams, their sales team, the marketing, the corporate, the board members, as well as the entire mid-management level. Each and every employee needs to be trained on what does the data security means and how they can avoid the exposure of the highly sensitive organization's data and make it vulnerable for attack by these individual hackers as well as these state-sponsored companies. The number two is the companies need to also take into consideration that there are indeed the localized data protection laws are there. In Europe, we have GDPR is there. In California, we have the California data protection laws is there. In New York also, we have the data protection laws are there for the financial services organizations. So the companies have to abide by these laws. They have to really respect the regulations that these companies are imposing, and they need to take special attention to the data that they're holding in their data lakes, in their enterprise data warehouses, and on the clouds, and how to smartly protect these kind of data. If we talk about the year 2019, the direct written premiums were over the range of $2.2 billion in US itself, which is a 12% year-over-year growth when we look at 2018, when the direct written premium was in the range of around $1.3 billion. Now, these direct written premium numbers are going to be significantly higher in 2020 itself because of the current pandemic we are going through. So the number of attacks are going to rise significantly this year. So it's very, very important for the companies to invest in the cyber insurance if they really want to protect themselves from the regulatory penalties as well as from the financial losses caused by the lawsuits as well as the credit worthiness ratings which are going down. Now, the other important aspect that the company need to take into consideration is that these cyber crimes are relentless. They are undiminished and it's unlikely to stop. So it's too easy and too rewarding for these hackers and these state-sponsored companies to attack your information ecosystem. And they also have a perception that it's very difficult for the regulatory bodies as well as for the crime bodies to actually caught these incidences and prosecute them. So it's the responsibility of every organization to protect themselves, to protect the interest of their shareholders, protect the data of their employees as well as their customers by buying the proper insurance policies, by putting the regular patches, investing in the proper the antivirus plans, and making sure each and every employee in the companies is properly trained. So at the end, I would again request all the companies and all our listeners that take these cybercrime incidences seriously. Talk to your local IT bodies, talk to the board team, your management team, and invest in a good cyber insurance. Because without that, it's going to be really difficult to survive in the coming years. If you have any comments, any suggestions on this topic, please feel free to post it below this video. We'll be more than happy to respond to that. If you have any suggestions for a new topic that you want us to cover in our upcoming Weekend Knowledge series, we'll be more than happy to talk about that. Until then, stay safe, stay connected, and keep flourishing. Thank you.